Hey there, and welcome to Goddess on the Rise. I am your host, Sarah Berg, and this podcast is all about empowering women, living in your truth, loving your body as it is, in your journey to self-love. You can find this podcast to be real, raw, authentic, and truth. So buckle up, girlfriend, because we are going for a ride. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Today I am interviewing a special guest on the podcast, and her name is Tiffany. She is a fat yoga teacher, and I am super excited for this. Tiffany, I happened to find her on, I think it was like a Reels that went viral on Instagram. So cool. You've had a lot of viral Reels actually here recently, which is super exciting. I found her on Instagram, started following her, and she's like a breath of fresh air. I love her so much already. And she's a fat yoga teacher. So, yeah, Tiffany, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I have been practicing yoga forever. It feels like maybe 13, 14 years, and there was never a fat yoga teacher, and I've always been fat, and so there was zero representation when I started, but I just loved it so much. And it took me like 10 years to kind of build up the courage to finally begin my teacher training. So as far as like being credentialed, it's still recent, but I have all of the experience, and my whole goal is to just make yoga accessible for everybody, because you're so used to seeing a thin-bodied person teaching the yoga. You don't think that your body could do it, but really like trying to tell everybody like you're worthy of even trying. So that's my whole goal with like my Instagram, my TikToks, like all of those fun things. I want to inspire people, and then hopefully every day get just enough to where maybe eventually they'll try it. And right now I have a 90-day yoga challenge, so I just am trying to bring in those beginners and just do some very basic yoga and breathing. And I've already gotten so much amazing feedback from people who are just like, I just never realized just breathing could like be like this for me. And I think just having somebody guide you through it who's the same size as you just makes such a huge difference. But yeah, like that's my whole goal with everything. And I love doing it. It's awesome just getting all the DMs from everybody, knowing that I'm like helping them find like themselves and like yoga for themselves.
That is really, really awesome. I love hearing that. And I mean, you're so right. There is absolutely no representation for, fat people. And it's definitely something that has been needed. One of the things that you said I just absolutely loved, you are worthy of even trying. Like, what a beautiful thing to think that, and it's so very true. I've noticed a lot, like on Instagram, it's very easy to compare. You see these really tiny, skinny women doing yoga, and what is your first thought? I mean, I know for me, it's like, I want to be her. Like, I want to look like that, because that's what society has told us, like, we should look like, right? And it's nothing against them. It's just simply like, it is what it is. It's what we've been taught for years. It's what our parents probably thought. It's what, society thinks, our social media thinks. There's so much of it out there. So the fact that we can, especially you, can just show up and be who you are and let other women know, like, hey, you could do this with me. It's not hard. Like, I got you, and I'm here to support you. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I just feel like, especially in fat women, like, or men, I have some men that like are like, I have this one guy who's like 70 and he calls me his sister, and
oh my God,
he's a gay guy, so like he just wants to be a part of the fat yogi crew, which I think is amazing, and I'm sure there's others out there as well. But like, it's just amazing, this like culture that we could create out of nothing,
Absolutely.
Like it just wasn't there before. And there's other accounts too that now have like risen up and become more like pronounced My Name is Jessamine, obviously, like, she's way, way up there. She was, like, the first, like, that trailblazer for, I think, a lot of, like, fat yogis. And then just other different, and, like, Amber Carnes and other big people. And I just, like, I love that I can be there with them and be that same, the same level as, like, somebody who has never worked out. Because if you look at some of those other accounts, even their yoga is, like, really difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I love them. I love their yoga and I love doing it. But, like, that would even be, I watch Jessamine just, like, do those, like, forearm stands. I still can't do a forearm stand, you know?
Right,
so,
right.
and I've been working on that forearm stand for a while. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is, like, I want to show my progress and my journey because, like, I could be 300 pounds and still working on forearm stand. That means somebody else could do the same thing. Hopefully they could, like, have that in their mind.
Right.
So that stigma of thin equals ability is, I'm hoping to, like, squash it out of everybody's minds because it doesn't equal that. And even though, yes, like, they could probably get into some more advanced postures, but that's really not the goal of yoga.
Yeah.
Ever. That has never been the goal of yoga.
You're
Those
right.
are, like, show off postures that don't make you a better yogi. That's the biggest thing. The best thing is to feel within your body. And I think every time I've ever, like, asked somebody, what do you love about yoga? Like, another fat person is like, that's the first time I've ever felt inside, like, I was in my body. I'm so used to feeling like I want to be ignored. I want to be invisible. Like, please don't notice me. And, like, yoga doesn't do that. Yoga makes you be completely, fully present, or it helps you to be anyways. And so for the first time, a lot of times people will experience, like, actually being in their bodies, which I think is so cool that I could be that for them.
Yeah, that is actually really beautiful. I love the way you said that. I have a client who also is, I can't wait to show her your videos. I don't know why I never thought about it before. But one of the things that we were talking about for her was, you know, exactly what you were saying, that feeling of wanting to be invisible and very disconnected with her body. You know, she has these spells of, like, binging and things like that. And it has nothing to do with, you know, being fat or being whatever it is that she is. It's strictly the fact that she's so disconnected with her emotions and all of that and that inner being. And so we're practicing some mindfulness, some grounding exercises, and just letting her feel like, oh, like, this is me. Like, this feels good. Like, I can be me. I can be myself, and it's okay, you know? Yeah. Sure, you can still want to lose weight. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, yeah.
But to know that you are present within yourself, it's the very first step, I feel like, to taking care of yourself, and that self-care and self-love. Like, nothing fancy. You know, it's nothing fancy, nothing expensive, nothing that cost. It's just being present within, you know, and welcoming yourself, like, meeting yourself exactly where you are and not judging it. So, and that's one of the things that I love about the way you teach. Your day one yoga video was amazing. It was just so gentle, and, like, you could just tell, like, there was no judgment. It was a safe place, and I found that to be really amazing, you know? And you can talk about this a little bit too. I think that this would be kind of helpful, but I've seen a couple of your videos where you've posted, I think maybe on Reels or something, that you've attended, you know, yoga classes, and it's nothing but skinny people or, like, really, really fit people, and you're like, you know, this is weird. And I've had that too, and it's what I've always noticed happens is that I sit in the way, way back, you know, like, no one can see me because I'm not going to be as good as them, you know, these thought process that I have, you know. And I mean, this was years ago. Now I know I can just show up as myself and be like, I don't give a crap, because that's not what I'm here for. You know, I'm not here for everybody else. This is my practice. But it's really scary to go to these classes, and it can be very intimidating. So do you want to share some of your experiences with that?
Yeah, so
kind of
like, I've been practicing yoga forever, and I've always done it in a studio.
Oh, wow.
Always. I'm like a studio rat. Like, I never, like, did at home. It's always hard for me to focus, and that's true for a lot of people. And so in a studio, it's just a completely different vibe. And I think the key is finding the right studio. I've even tried, like, Pilates studios, which, no. Like they're worse than yoga studios if you're like looking, because sometimes it just happens to be the closer studio, like proximity to your house, and you try it and it's just not a good fit. I just think like the main thing is trying different studios, not getting like upset if it's not gonna work. I think the biggest thing is like knowing that like you're a human, you exist, you're worthy of like being in the class. You have to remind yourself of that. And then, like, for me, I've had all different types of instances. Thankfully, my very first experience was so warm and, like, open arms. This teeny tiny little instructor who was, like, 5 foot. I'm 5'9", so, like, I'm a giant compared to her. And she welcomed me with open arms and helped me through everything. And that was back when we practiced the same sequence every single time, and we never went outside of it. It was so boring, like back in the day, but I loved it still. I loved it then, and now it just was what it was. And now it's like so many more studio opportunities and everything, just depending on where you're at. COVID, we actually just opened here all of our studios. That's awesome. But like finding a place that maybe uses words like inclusivity and like community and things like that. You'll know like this is where I want to be. And I would even just take a look at the instructors. I saw one studio who had a little person there, and I just thought that was amazing. I had never seen another little person as an instructor. I was like, I want to take her class. Like, that is amazing. Like, what kind of accommodations does she need to cue for a regular sized person that she can't feel in her body, but she knows that she needs to cue? Like, it's just interesting to me to like hear what she would say. And like I think that's amazing. I think that more little people should be yoga teachers, because yoga is amazing. It could be for anybody.
That is so awesome.
I was just gonna say, but when you go in the yoga studio I ended up taking my yoga teacher training from, the front desk person was rude to me, and they literally were like, oh, you're like new here, you don't have a yoga mat? Like, I had just moved to the area, I didn't have a yoga mat, and I just was like, yeah, I need one. Like, I don't know, like, what you want. I could buy it if you need to. Like, I could rent it. Like, is there a rental fee? Like, she didn't explain anything. It was just like very like dry, and like I was obnoxious to her. And I got there early too, so it wasn't like she needed to rush or attend to anybody else. Like, the other thing is like go early, try to get yourself familiar with the studio. And I kind of knew what I was in for, but like, like find a teacher that you're gonna click with. And like, I've been in teachers where they're like sing-songy, which not my jam. I don't know if you've taken enough yoga to go yoga for teachers, you kind of know like their voice, just the inflection goes up, down. It's not my jam. I like teachers who cue muscle engagements. So really focusing on alignment and like what I should be focused on versus, and breathe like this and breathe like that. Like, that's great, but like, I want to like work as hard as I can in the pose. And sometimes you're just like settled. You don't even do anything. You don't even engage. And like, as a fat person especially, it's like, I'm capable of doing that. And it's funny I'm saying capable because I just taught a class on being capable, but like, I am capable and you are capable of like engaging a muscle. So like, why aren't we cueing that way, you know? And it's like, I feel like it's a little bit lazy teaching, but sometimes it's people who just, that's their flow. So that's where they go to. And somebody who's new to yoga might not know what to do. And then all of a sudden they're like, I didn't really get a good workout, and I felt completely disconnected from my body. And a fat person especially wouldn't feel that comfortable with it. So I know like those kinds of teachers don't mesh with me. So I guess like, as far as negative experiences, thankfully I've only had a few. I have had a negative experience where I was the teacher in a studio and somebody like looked me up and down and was like, you're the teacher, and like judged me.
Oh gosh.
And, yep, I'm the teacher, let's work out. And like I put them through like a moderate workout, and they were like, you know what? I really like your yoga style. Like, where can I find you? And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's work out together, because just because I'm fat doesn't mean you can't get a good workout from me. You know, I still know how the body works. I still know how muscles work. I have the same ones. I just happen to have more fat on my body than you do.
And fat does not equal anything. Fat is a protective layer that protects our organs. Like, why people don't understand that, I will never know. Sure, more fat, in certain, I'm not even going to say it can be dangerous because that's such bullshit. It really is. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you hear people say like, yeah, oh, obesity and all that kind of stuff is, so dangerous, so dangerous. Well, so is drinking like 5 whiskeys a night, okay? Like, it is what it is, but people still do it.
And energy drinks,
Yep.
and lots of other things that we do that you can access to without being 21 years old. There's so many bad things that kids get into that they don't even realize. Like, you can have a heart attack from drinking so many energy drinks. Like,
Right.
that's the thing.
Yeah, and it blows my mind. I know you've kind of talked about this. I don't want to get too off topic here, but, like the healthcare world is so obsessed with weight. It's like, oh, yeah, I drink 5 energy drinks a day. And then someone else walks in, oh, yeah, I'm a little overweight. Or maybe I'm a lot overweight. And they're like, well, now you could die. But the person with the 5 energy drinks, oh, you're fine. Maybe you should cut back. But, like, we're both going in for a broken arm. And the other guy's, oh, it's okay. But the other one's like, well, you broke your arm because you're fat.
Yeah.
Crazy as shit.
I mean, everything goes back to it. I had a doctor one time. I was in the office because of hair loss from my daughter.
Uh-huh.
And there was a question that said, like, are you active? And I was running at the time. And so I put down, I ran 4 days a week. I ran 1 to 3 miles every 4 days a week or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he's like, you run. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I would keep running if I were you. It's like, okay.
Good talk.
I'm like, what does that have to do with my hair loss?
Right.
Like, can we talk about why I'm here?
Yeah.
And it was because vitamins and different things, but he didn't help me at all. And I ended up having to go to 3 different doctors before I kind of found something that like helped with it. But like, it's just normal, you lose your hair when you have a baby, but
right.
Yeah, I believe that. And I've heard so many stories of people sharing with me, just like going to the emergency room, they could be bleeding to death, and them going like, well, if you lost some weight, this probably wouldn't have been as bad. It's like, can you treat me?
Yeah, like, who would have thought my weight has to do with me bleeding out?
You realize, right?
Right. It's so crazy. I had the similar experience when I went to a thyroid doctor. I have Hashimoto's, and the thyroid doctor said to me, I was working out religiously about an hour and a half a day. My calories were higher because I was on my feet 12 hours a day. And when you eat more and you're eating healthy for your body, it does equal weight loss. It helps your metabolism. When you starve yourself, it equals the opposite. Your metabolism will slow down. Your body will enter starvation mode. That's okay. The whole 9 yards, it's really dangerous. And he said, well, I think you've probably maxed out on working out. It's obviously not working for you. So why don't you try to eat like 500 calories a day, and we'll put you on an appetite suppressant. And I was like, that's not my problem. Like, I barely have an appetite as it is. And he's like, well, you're eating too much. And I'm like, well, I'm working out an hour and a half a day, and I'm working 12-hour days. Like, on my feet all day long. Like, I was a nurse, running around in the OB clinic. And he was like, yeah, well, it's not, what you're doing is not working, so we need to try something else. And I was like, cool. All right. Good talk. I'll never go to you again. And I had asked him, like, well, where did you go to nutrition school at? Like, where did you learn this? And he's like, I took a nutrition class. I'm like, well, how many years ago? Because I had known that doctors only receive a very small amount of nutrition training. And they actually, really funny, a lot of doctors skip that class, or they'll, be in that class like very short amount of time because it's an easy class to screw off in. They're so overwhelmed with their other classes. So I was asking him, and he could barely answer me. He's like, well, I do have a nutritionist in office. I'm like, well, I could go and get my nutritionist degree right now. It's not even a degree. It's a certification, Like, how stupid. So it's crazy how, fat people get treated. And I think this all, comes full circle because whether you're getting treated this way at a doctor's office or in a yoga studio. It's definitely a very real thing that we go through as fat people. And I'm glad that you had brought up, trying to find a yoga studio that's, accepting of you. And I've never had an experience that was negative in a yoga studio. I've been to quite a few all around. But one of the things, it's always been like my negative thoughts. Like I always have to be in the back of the room because I'm not good enough. I'm not flexible enough. I can't do all the moves correctly, So I would always stay in the back, away from everyone. Don't want anybody to see me. And I mean, there's been times where I've taken hot yoga classes and I felt like everybody else was in their bras, their sports bras and their leggings. And I'm like, I got to keep a shirt on because no one wants to see this. As if it even mattered, as if anybody else was even looking at me, right? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy that the way society has been, the way we talk to ourselves has, kept us in the back. And I just love how you're like, hey, I'm me. I'm going to be up here in the front, and this is going to be awesome. You're going to love my class.
Yeah, I mean, there's really for me, like, there's no other option. Like, it has to be like that because otherwise, where am I going to be representing, So, like, my whole goal is to represent for fat people. And if I can't represent for them and then even show the thinner bodied people, like, you can get a workout regardless, then it's kind of like everything is going to be lost, like all of my hard work. So it's like I have to, like, show up every single time and be that person for them. And I even got a message this morning who's like, I look at these yoga poses and all I see are like straight angles. And I've never seen one with a round angle until I started following you. And I'm like, well, yeah, because bodies are round. Like, their bodies are probably round too, but like they have good lighting and angles and they're looking all fly. I don't have the benefit of that because I got all the thunder thighs and the hips. My hips stick out so much. And the thing is like, they're my hips. They're there and it's okay. But like, it just exists. And like, I look at it like, well, at least they're mine. Like nobody else gets them. And like, I'm thankful for it because like, how weird would I look if my hips went in,
Right.
So
yeah.
They're just a little bit bigger. That's all.
I really love that. And you make, some very valid points there. It's funny because we are so judgmental of our bodies, and it's like that body carries you. Like, those hips birthed children. Those thunder thighs that you're putting down, those like carry you around every single day. They never fail you. Like, here we are judging our arms that jiggle or our belly that's round, and it's like, that literally protects you. Those arms do all these amazing things for you. Like, your body's hearing everything you're saying. It's a wonderful place to be, especially in yoga. What was that?
And it still functions for you.
Exactly.
I just like imagine this sad, like one of my clients was like, imagine this sad donkey like getting beaten every single day, but it still pulls the cart every single day. And like, that's how you are with your body when you sit there and say, I hate my belly, but then my digesting food, and then I hate my arms, but your arms are still lifting things for you. Like, what if decided not to do that anymore?
Yeah, like, you're mean to me, I'm gonna quit working, like, could you imagine? Ugh. And it's like, I love how yoga makes me feel very thankful and very humble. Like, oh wow, like, I've said these mean things to my body and here I am still completely functioning and doing these incredible moves that I never even thought that I could do before. It's awesome. Yeah. So, what is your favorite thing about yoga?
I guess, like, the feeling after I practice, like, there's this yoga bliss that comes at the end of practice, like, every single time. It's, like, the only time during the day I'm, like, fully present in my body. And so I just, like, love that. It helps me, like, stay grounded mentally, and then with other things, I mean, I'm human. I still yell at my kids. I still get in fights with my husband,
Right.
There are things that come up, but like yoga helps like settle me down. So like if I'm feeling stressed, I know some people go for walks. I like do yoga or I meditate. And that's another thing, like people always think like, oh, I can't meditate because like my brain won't turn off. Like, you probably need meditation more than anybody else.
Exactly.
Because it will like calm you down, and just like being in touch with you. If your brain is all out here, you're never living in the present.
Right.
You're either living in the past or you're living in the future. Like, if you're worrying about something, or if you're like kind of like just thinking about how you screwed up something in the past, like you're never like fully focused in the present. And so that's what I love about yoga, is it really brings me right to the here and now. And at any point during the day, if I'm like feeling just like overwhelmed or stressed or whatever, I just take 5 deep breaths and I'm like, oh, there it is. Yeah. Like there I am. Because like us as humans, we just are like, go, 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 go. Like, I got to get this done. Then I can relax. And really what we should be doing is breathing and then going, and then breathing and then going. And then at the end of the day, relaxing. We don't take enough breaks. Even 5 breaths is hard for people.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things that I teach my clients is very first thing in the morning, we're going to have 5 minutes to ourselves. And that's going to look like you being mindful, taking your deep breaths, listening to a guided meditation, and saying your affirmations. Like, okay, I am healthy, I'm happy, I'm beautiful, I'm bliss, whatever that looks like for you, but just taking 5 minutes before you even start your day, that's one of the very first things that we're doing. We're going inward, we're checking in with ourselves, telling ourselves, hey, I got you, I see you, you are human, and then we can go about our day. But it's one of the very most important things that, I talk about, and it's something that I do myself every single day. And it's amazing how amazing you feel when you go internal and you're just like, okay, like, I see you, I understand you're stressed about this, but we're going to have these 5 minutes where we're like a little bit nice and calm, and then we'll go about our day and do all the craziness that needs to get done, but at least we have that 5 minutes to ourselves. Because oftentimes what I find is, at the end of the day, you're too tired to even relax. You're too tired to do any kind of self-care, self-love, anything. You're just like, I'm done for. So what happens? Sure. We just end up going to bed, and then we do the same thing over again. Whereas if we take that 5 minutes in the morning, you have that time to kind of just settle, and like, okay, I'm here, like, I'm present, and then go. So
I love that because like people need a morning routine, and so many times they're starting their day chaotically.
Yes.
And just kind of turns into a giant snowball for the rest of your day, and then you end up having a terrible day, and then all of a sudden like a couple of bad days, and you don't know why. And it's like, are you like stopping to really like be present and like reflect on you, yourself, or whatever you need to for the day, hour, second, or whatever? It's really, really common where people just don't do it, and people think that it's like spiritual or something like that. No, it's just like reassuring yourself, like, you can do, just like a kid trying to climb up something and they can't do it, and you're going, you could do it. You don't have another person telling you that in life. Right. You need to be a cheerleader.
Yep.
And saying those affirmations are going to do that for you. And I don't think people realize, like, that's not spiritual at all. That's just being like a motivator for life.
Right. It's funny because, a few years ago, if you would have asked me, who's your biggest cheerleader? I probably would have been like, well, it's probably my husband or my sister, my mom, my grandparents. But now I'm just like, it's me, bitch. Like, I'm showing up for myself. Like, I don't need anybody cheering me on because, like, I got me. And that's all that matters. And people get it very confused as being self-absorbed or selfish. But it's like, no one else is going to have you like you have you. And able for you to show up for anybody else, you have to put the work into yourself first. And I think that's where yoga can really just come into play and, settle us back in, like, have that inner respect for ourselves. Like, okay, my body can do all these beautiful things, and I am so capable. So, yeah, that's awesome. What is one thing you feel like you have learned so far with yoga that's made you just been like, wow, like, that's amazing?
I guess, like, I just try, like, being able to, like, try like new poses,
Uh-huh.
and using props and stuff to where you're like, this, I didn't know I could go upside down. Like, I didn't think that it was possible. I didn't know that my back could bend that much in a yoga wheel. So like using them in a way that's like, oh, this actually like helps me. And even like using a prop like a block to open up like in triangle or something where your chest needs to have a bit more leverage so that you can open up. So yeah, like seeing those types of things. And really, like, you know, yoga teacher training was about self-discovery, and we kind of talked about that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned the prop thing like there in the yoga teacher training, but then also like the self-discovery, like asking questions is so good. And like yoga is such a good place to kind of start by asking those questions. So if you have an intention, like asking where is this intention going? Like, how can I like be more present with the intention? Like if it's worthiness, like who's telling you you're not worthy? Is it you? Is it somebody else? Is it the scale? Why are you weighing yourself? You know, and just like asking yourself like as many questions as you need to like find the place where you're like, I can apply this intention to my life. And so many people, when I'm like going and guiding them through a yoga class, I'll spend a good 5 minutes just like going over intention, breathing, and all this in my regular yoga classes. And they're like, I've never heard people put things like that. I've never even asked myself those questions. So like doing things like that as well is just so important to like opening yourself up to props and then the intention. Probably those two things are like the most things that surprise me.
I love that. I think props are so underrated. Like, you know, I never wanted to use props before because I was like, well, I don't need that. Or, oh, like, of course I need that, because as if it was a bad thing, you know. But really, it helps you get into a pose deeper, or even the best part is correctly. You know, alignment's everything.
Opening up the chest. I see it so much, like where people are like closed, like their shoulders are coming forward, and you're like, if you just use a block here, your chest would be completely open because you're just bringing the earth to your hand. And like, it's not a bad thing if your hips aren't open enough to like bring your hand to the ground. You have to work on it. It's practice. And then if you're able to open up, like, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like the heavens open up and you're just like, this is magic. Like, this is what it's supposed to feel like.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome. I love it. I say it's beautiful, but I feel like that's my one word I use for everything yoga related. I'm like, God, it's just so beautiful. It just feels so good. What, as we were just kind of wrapping up here, what is one thing you feel like you would want to tell someone who's on the fence about trying or nervous about trying yoga as a fat person?
So one thing I tell people a lot is yoga is breathing. So if you can breathe, you can do yoga. If you're on the fence about it, like, look within yourself, maybe ask yourself why. Why are you curious, and why don't you want to try? And then just remind them that if you can breathe, you can do yoga. Yoga started with the breath, and then they added posture so that they could breathe for longer. Like, that's the whole point of yoga. And like, people don't focus on the breath as much as they do the postures. And that's a lack of their yoga practice, because once you can really tap into the breath, and yoga is also more than just breath and postures. It's also like being kind to people. It's like, you know, not taking from people. There's so many different parts about yoga that's like, this is good. Like, you probably are already a yogi in your mind. You don't even know it. Like, you're a good person, and you're practicing these things already because you want to be a good person. And then you look it up and you're like, wow, like, all these limbs of yogas, all the yamas and the niyamas, you're like, oh, I am a yogi. So like, I think just educating people on the fact that like yoga is more than this, and like, you can sit in a chair and do yoga. And I had one client where I just started with them. I thought she could stand and she couldn't. And we moved to chair, and she apologized for having to move to the chair. And I was like, do not ever apologize to me. I think that it is amazing that your body can do it in a chair. If you need to do it on the bed, we're going to do it on the bed. That sounds weird now that I'm saying it out loud, but if you need to practice yoga where you're at, then practice it. I mean, if somebody is a quadriplegic, they can still move their neck. They can still move their nose. They can still move their mouth. Like, that can be a yoga thing for them. They can be focused and breathe and do the yoga. And so I think when you bring it down to a level where it's like, oh, actually that's more accessible for me. If you're jump roping and you stop the jump rope and you put it on the ground and somebody steps over it, then you're like, oh, I can jump rope. That's jump roping. Versus keeping it going and then asking them to jump in, like that's never going to work. So you have to bring it down for them. And most people are like shocked. At the end of the practice, I'm always like, how was it? And they're like, I just never knew I could feel that good in my body.
I love it.
And a lot of times telling people, like, do you want to feel good? Like, let's do this. We can do some very gentle movements. And then if it's too gentle, let's try something else. Let's try a different thing and then see. And reminding them, like, yoga is a practice. We're practicing. We're not like, this is the end all be all. You'll never get to do this again. Like, we try. It doesn't work, you try a different way. And when I'm like instructing, I'll offer different variations, and I'm like, it's like Goldilocks. You pick the one that works for you. You know, arm down might not work for you. Arm in your lap might work for you. Like, try it and see. And then you do that one from now on. Or maybe next time you try a different one. So every day is different. Every day your body is different. So like you have to just kind of go with the flow, so to speak, with yoga. And I think once people kind of settle into their minds, like, oh, I think I can try, then all of a sudden they're like, I can't imagine my life without it. Like, this is something, no matter what, I'm doing yoga forever. Like, even if they stop for a short time, they always come back to it, which I think is really...
Yeah, I love that. It's really, when you're talking about that, it just reminds me of really just meeting your body exactly where it's at. And it kind of, the woman that was standing and then went to the chair, like, that's amazing that she was able to listen to her body and respect it and go to where she needed to be. And like, that's a really great place to be. That's the first step of self-love and self-care. Like, okay, I see you, I respect you, and I'll do what I need to do for you, And I feel like that's what it's all about, just meeting yourself exactly where you are and not judging it, because it's nothing. It is what it is, So
exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on here. Oh, you are amazing. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, Tiffanycroww with 2 W's. TikTok, Tiffanycroww with 2 W's.
Awesome.
Twitter and Facebook too, but not as active.
Okay.
You can email me, tiffanycroww@gmail.com, and then tiffanycroww.com. So basically my name, all the places.
Love it.
I'm on YouTube too.
I was going to say you have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so that 90-day challenge that I talked about is completely free. So
that's
if you want
awesome.
to on any of the days, I recommend starting at the beginning and then just kind of trying the challenge. And even though I'm using the word challenge, it's meant for beginners. So if you're unsure, it's a good place to start and have some fun with it. And also my goal is to bring some fun to yoga. So like at the end of the month, I'm doing a Halloween rockin' yoga class. And
That's
so
fun.
It's also going to be beginners. We'll be dancing, lip syncing, and like having so much fun. So if you go to my YouTube, you'll see all the links to like sign up for that too.
Awesome. I can't wait. I'm excited. And then you have a Teespring shop, right?
Yeah, I do. So I have
cool.
a bunch of stuff there that's like fat yogi and like staying fat and
yes.
like, like we should be empowered enough to like put that out there. Like being fat is not a bad thing.
Yeah. And really like just taking back that word, like, hey, you called us fat, but look at us. Like, we're embracing it. Like, who gives a crap? Like, it's not that serious.
Exactly.
Well, I love it. Thank you so much for coming on today, Tiffany. You were awesome.
Awesome. You're welcome.